Today I had a talk with Claude about parental alienation. It really helped me out. Here's what Claude said. I challenged the binary first because I think it's part of what traps people. Victim or owner isn't the actual choice space. There's a third position that the literature on what Pauline Boss calls, quote, ambiguous loss, end quote, gets at. The carrier. Someone who bears a wound that won't close without pretending it has closed and without being defined solely by it. That's not a reframe trick. It's a different ontology of what healing means. The owner agency framework, which is popular in personal development, sometimes in coaching, works reasonably well for discrete past events. You were wronged. The event is over. The question now is how you relate to the memory and what you build going forward. For that situation, shift to ownership maps onto something real. Parental alienation breaks that framework, and I think you already know this, which is probably why your clients reject the offered exits. Alienation isn't a past event. It's an ongoing, renewing wound. The children are alive. The phone could ring today. The campaign against a parent continues whether they engage or not. There's no after to relate to. Traditional grief models assume a body to bury. This is grief with no body, no funeral, and no permission from society to fully mourn. Telling someone in that situation to take ownership and move forward is asking them to bury someone who isn't dead. Their right to refuse. So the honest answer to your question, how does one shift when any alternative role feels hollow compared to the intended outcome, has a piece I think you're hoping I won't say. Sometimes they don't shift, and they shouldn't be made to feel they failed for not shifting. The desire for reconciliation and redemption isn't a pathology to be processed away. It's the appropriate response of a parent who loves their child. Asking them to want less is itself a kind of violence. That said, and this is where I would push your framing, I think compared to the original intended outcome is a comparison that destroys whoever runs it, regardless of the loss. Every life contains the death of intended outcomes. The alienated parent's loss is genuinely worse than most. But the structure of my actual life versus the life I was supposed to have is a torture engine that runs on any fuel. Part of what makes alienation so cruel is that it makes this comparison feel forced and constant, where most people get to let it fade. The work isn't accepting the loss, it's interrupting the comparison loop without pretending the loss is acceptable. What I've seen in the better writings on chronic unresolved grief, the people who carry it best don't transcend the wound. They don't reach a higher plane. They develop a relationship with the wound that lets them still be fully themselves around it. They want reconciliation. They ache for redemption. They sometimes get neither. And they still find that there are mornings worth waking up for, work worth doing, other people worth loving, not as replacements for the lost children, which would be obscene, but as the rest of a life that was never going to be only about that one thing, even if that one thing was the center. The hardest piece, and the part most frameworks lie about. Some children return, some don't. Some return decades later. The alienated parent can't make this happen, and pretending they can through, quote, doing the inner work, end quote, or whatever, is just another flavor of the splitting that did this to them in the first place. What they can do is try to stay reachable, stay sane, stay alive, and remain the parent the child could come back to if the child ever sees through it. That's not a shift from victim to owner. It's something closer to refusing to be defined by what was done to you, while also refusing to pretend it wasn't done.